May 31st, 1995, Cuba. A 59-year-old American peers through his curtain and his stomach drops. 16 men in olive uniforms surround his villa. For 23 years, Robert Vesco has outrun every agency that hunted him. He stole $224 million from investors, the largest financial theft of his era. He bribed Nixon's re-election campaign with cash that helped fund the Watergate burglary. He bought an entire country's protection by paying off its president. When that failed, he tried to build his own nation from scratch. Every scheme worked and every escape succeeded, until now. But here's the twist. The men at his door aren't FBI. They're not CIA. They're Cuban state security, sent by the same dictator who gave Vesco sanctuary 12 years ago. The greatest escape artist in financial history just discovered one brutal truth. You can buy almost anything, except your way out of Fidel Castro's prison. How did a dropout outsmart the US government? And what made Castro finally turn on him? 1970. A mutual fund empire called Investors Overseas Services is dying in public. Founded by flamboyant financier Bernie Kornfeld, famous for asking clients, "Do you sincerely want to be rich?" IOS had grown into a colossus managing over $2 billion for investors across dozens of countries. Dentists in Germany, factory workers in Japan, and retirees across Europe, all trusting IOS with their life savings. But now panic rumors have sparked a run on the fund. Clients are cashing out faster than IOS can pay. The directors eject Kornfeld and hunt desperately for a savior, someone with enough cash and credibility to stop the bleeding. They find Robert Vesco, and that decision will cost their investors $250 million. Vesco is 35 years old, a high school dropout from Detroit who clawed his way to a fortune by building a conglomerate called International Controls Corporation. On paper, ICC looks impressive. Dozens of companies across multiple countries. In reality, it is a debt-fueled machine that must keep acquiring or collapse. Vesco needs a massive score to keep the illusion alive, and IOS is that score. He swoops in with borrowed cash, a $5 million loan he does not actually have, and bold promises of rescue. The desperate IOS board hands him the keys. By January 1971, Vesco has ousted Kornfeld entirely and seized control of a $2 billion empire for the price of a used yacht. Here is where the heist begins. Vesco has a private code name for what comes next, Project LPI. It stands for Looting and Plundering Incorporated. He is not joking. Within months of taking control, Vesco begins draining IOS like a vampire. He creates a maze of shell companies scattered across the Bahamas, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and Panama, jurisdictions chosen specifically because their banking secrecy laws make tracing funds nearly impossible. Money flows out of IOS investor accounts and into Vesco's hidden pockets through a web of fake transactions and paper trails so tangled that regulators will spend years trying to untangle them. Think of it as a 1970s version of the FTX collapse, a charismatic financier gutting customer funds behind a mask of legitimacy. But Vesco has one advantage Sam Bankman-Fried never had: speed. In 1971, regulators communicate by mail. International wire transfers take days. Oversight agencies in different countries barely talk to each other. Vesco is betting that by the time anyone realizes the vault is empty, he will be untraceable. And for 2 years, he is right. By the end of 1972, $224 million has vanished from 4 IOS funds, siphoned directly into accounts Vesco controls. Adjusted for inflation, that is roughly $1.6 billion in today's money. The largest financial theft the world had ever seen. And Vesco does not hide, he flaunts it. He buys a personal Boeing 707 jet, one of only a handful in private hands anywhere on Earth, and christens it Silver Phyllis after his wife. He installs a disco, a sauna, and a bar inside the fuselage. He throws champagne parties at 30,000 feet while stolen money fuels every mile. But Vesco has made one critical miscalculation. He assumes no one important is paying attention. But he is wrong. By late 1972, the SEC has started tracing the money flows. Investors are screaming about vanished funds. Vesco tries to swat the investigation away with lawsuits. He actually sues the SEC to block their inquiry. But it backfires catastrophically. In May 1972, a federal judge dismisses his suit and unseals the entire investigation. Headlines explode across America linking Vesco's name to massive fraud. The U.S. government is now hunting him. November 1972. The SEC files a sweeping civil suit against Vesco and 41 associates, accusing him of systematically looting iOS. Criminal charges are coming. Vesco can do the math. He has stolen $250 million from investors across the globe, and the most powerful nation on earth is preparing to cage him. Most men would negotiate a surrender or flee to some remote corner of the world. Vesco chooses a third option so audacious it borders on insane. He decides to bribe the President of the United States to make the whole problem disappear. But how do you put a price tag on presidential protection? And what happens when your bribe lands in the middle of the biggest political scandal in American history? April 10th, 1972. Washington, D.C. A sleek private jet touches down at National Airport under cover of darkness. Two Vesco associates disembark, carrying a single leather briefcase. Inside, $200,000 in crisp $100 bills, bundled and wrapped in brown paper. Their destination is a discreet hotel meeting with Maurice Stans, President Nixon's chief campaign fundraiser and former Secretary of Commerce. The cash is a donation to Nixon's re-election committee, delivered off the books in absolute secrecy, timed just days after a new campaign finance law that would have required disclosure. Vesco has made contributions before, but nothing like this. This is his boldest gamble yet. Use cold cash to purchase immunity from the Oval Office itself. It's crazy. A trusted Vesco fixer slides the briefcase across a table to Stans. No words need exchanging. Everyone in the room understands the score. Vesco's message is simple: make the SEC investigation disappear. In return, Nixon's campaign receives a fat infusion of untraceable money at the crucial kickoff of election season. It is an audacious ploy, treating the American Justice Department like a distressed company to acquire, and for a brief moment, it appears to work. Nixon's Attorney General, John Mitchell, takes a personal interest in Vesco's troubles. Months earlier, when Vesco was briefly jailed in Switzerland, Mitchell intervened to secure his bail. Now, with campaign cash on the line, whispers circulate in Washington that the SEC is backing off. One of Nixon's brothers lobbies on Vesco's behalf. Vesco keeps Nixon's nephew on his payroll. The fix, it seems, is in. But Vesco has miscalculated the chaos he has stepped into. Inside Nixon's committee to re-elect the president, nicknamed CREEP, a far larger scandal is brewing. Just 2 months after Vesco's cash delivery, creep operatives break into Democratic headquarters at the Watergate complex, funded by slush money from the same secret safe that holds Vesco's $200,000. The connection is direct. Vesco's untraceable cash sits alongside contributions from other donors, all feeding a pool that finances dirty tricks and break-ins. Unwittingly, Vesco's bribe is literally bankrolling the Watergate burglary. His money stocked the safe from which funds were drawn for G. Gordon Liddy's plumbers team. In trying to bury his SEC case, Vesco has become a ghost in the Watergate machine, a hidden catalyst in the century's biggest political scandal. He wanted to disappear into the shadows of power. Instead, he has stumbled into a spotlight that will illuminate every corner of Nixon's corruption. By early 1973, Watergate is unraveling. The press catches wind of shadowy donations. On January 26, 1973, the Washington Star-News publicly names Vesco as the source of an illegal $200,000 Nixon contribution. The story detonates, and Nixon's people panic. Within days, Nixon's campaign treasurer sends Vesco a polite but urgent letter. "We're refunding your money. Please, take it back." In a blink, Vesco's grand bribe not only fails, it is exposed. Instead of buying protection, he has purchased a starring role in a national scandal. A federal grand jury targets Vesco for illegal campaign contributions totaling $250,000, making him one of the few figures criminally indicted out of Watergate. Now, the hunter becomes the hunted. Nixon's top aides, John Mitchell and Maurice Stans, are themselves indicted for allegedly obstructing justice on Vesco's behalf. The president is under immense scrutiny, and any secret favors to Vesco are political dynamite. Whatever influence Vesco hoped to buy evaporates overnight. The SEC fraud case roars back to life. By summer 1973, a criminal warrant is prepared for his arrest on securities fraud. But lawmen hoping to slap cuffs on Robert Vesco find an empty chair. Sometime in late 1972, as the Watergate winds shifted, Vesco slipped out of the United States, fled the jurisdiction with his fortune intact. The Justice Department is livid. Vesco has made them look like fools. America's most wanted financial criminal is officially a fugitive, yet here is the twist. Vesco does not flee like a man ashamed. He does not slink into hiding. He resurfaces openly in a tropical paradise, living like a king, while the SEC chairman sputters that Vesco's fraud is one of the largest ever perpetrated. How? Because Robert Vesco's Plan B is even bolder than Plan A. If he cannot buy the American system, he will buy his own country to shield him. But which nation would sell its sovereignty to a wanted man? And what exactly is the going rate for a country's loyalty? 1973, San Jose, Costa Rica. Robert Vesco lounges on the patio of a sprawling villa in the affluent Escazú district, sipping imported scotch while reporters shout questions from beyond the Iron Gate. The world's media have descended on this Central American capital because Vesco, now an international fugitive with outstanding warrants in the United States, Switzerland, and several other countries, has found an unlikely sanctuary. Costa Rica's president, José Pepe Figueres, enjoys a reputation as a democratic socialist who abolished his country's military. Yet here he is granting refuge to a notorious American swindler. The answer, unsurprisingly, is money. Vesco has effectively purchased the protection of an entire nation. Within weeks of arriving, Vesco invests millions in Costa Rica. He pours cash into President Figueres' personal projects, even into Figueres' family farm business. The message is clear. I protect your interests, and you protect mine. And protect they do. In July 1973, under Figueres' influence, Costa Rica's legislature passes a law curtailing extradition, a new policy quickly dubbed the Vesco Law, seemingly tailored to block any U.S. request. The president himself admits publicly, "We will take money from anyone." Costa Rica, strapped for cash, treats Vesco's fortune as a welcome windfall. In return, they slam the door on American extradition demands. Vesco has achieved something extraordinary. He has bought himself a country-sized shield. SEC lawyers and FBI agents watch, helpless, as Vesco strolls the streets of San Jose in designer suits. He hires a prominent PR agent to burnish his image, insisting to the press he is a victim of political persecution. With a straight face, his publicist claims Vesco simply wants to live openly, as if the looted $224 million were a misunderstanding. For a time, it works. American power has hit a tropical brick wall. Costa Rica will not surrender him, and no extradition treaty is in force. Vesco settles in as the untouchable pirate king of his own Caribbean corner. Yet storm clouds gather. By 1974, Figueres' term ends, and a new president takes office, one far less friendly to Vesco's cause. International pressure mounts. Harboring a global fraudster damages Costa Rica's reputation, and Vesco, true to form, cannot resist meddling. He throws his weight around local politics, financing campaigns, angling to turn Costa Rica into his personal fiefdom. The gringo banker morphs into a shadow power broker, and that does not sit well with many ticos. He is testing the limits of hospitality. By 1976, the U.S. indicts Vesco in absentia for the iOS fraud, upping the ante. Costa Rica's welcome mat phrase. Late one night in 1978, a private plane departs San Jose under the cover of darkness. On board is Robert Vesco, fleeing the country he thought he would rule. After 5 years, his Costa Rican paradise is over. Journalists swarm the empty mansion. Costa Rica, once his fortress, has quietly cut a deal to push the fugitive along. Vesco is homeless again, albeit with millions in hand, and U.S. agents are back on his heels. He has escaped America by buying a country's loyalty, but no purchase lasts forever. Where can a man go when he has already bought a nation and lost it? Vesco has a daring answer. If one country will not shelter him permanently, maybe he can create his own. But how does a fugitive forge a sovereign nation from scratch? And will anyone take the idea seriously? Late 1970s. The Caribbean Sea glitters beneath Vesco's yacht as he scans the horizon. He is a man without a country, a wandering millionaire with a price on his head and arrest warrants pending in a dozen jurisdictions. The U.S. is pressuring governments everywhere to refuse him refuge. One by one, his havens dry up. Vesco hops from port to port, always a step ahead, a flying Dutchman of white-collar crime. First stop after Costa Rica, the Bahamas, a familiar haunt. Nassau had been his early bolt hole in 1970 when he first slipped away from U.S. subpoenas. He had cultivated Bahamian Prime Minister Lyndon Pindling, with strategic donations years prior, reportedly contributing to Pindling's political campaigns. For a while, it works. The Bahamas shrugs at U.S. extradition pleas. Vesco basks in Nassau's island comforts, convinced he has outfoxed the feds again, but trouble finds him. Vesco's new neighbor is Carlos Leder, a Colombian cocaine kingpin busy transforming a 165-acre private island called Norman's Cay into the Caribbean's busiest drug smuggling hub. Planes loaded with cocaine depart Norman's Cay for Florida nearly every day. The operation is brazen and immensely profitable. The two rogues strike an alliance. Vesco, ever the facilitator, allegedly helps later bribe local officials to ignore the drug planes coming and going. His specialty is greasing palms, after all. It is a mutually profitable arrangement, the outlaw financier and the narco-trafficker. But it paints an even larger target on Vesco's back. By 1980, U.S. authorities see him as a player in the cocaine trade. A 1989 indictment will later reveal these dealings in damning detail. Sensing the heat, the Bahamas politely shows Vesco the door. Harboring a fugitive fraudster was one thing. Enabling cocaine shipments to American streets is quite another. In 1981, under pressure, Vesco sails off once more. His options narrow. He tries a brief stint in Antigua and hatches his most grandiose scheme yet, founding a brand new country. Taking a page from buccaneers of old, Vesco and his co-conspirators devise the Sovereign Order of New Aragon, a micronation to be carved from Antigua's sparsely populated sister island, Barbuda, with a population roughly 1,500 people. The plan is audacious. Lease the entire island, declare sovereignty, print passports, and establish a government answerable to no foreign power. Imagine it, Vesco as prince of a tropical principality, beyond all extradition, beyond all subpoenas, answerable to no law but his own. He courts Antigua's Deputy Prime Minister Lester Byrd with promises of investment, exploring legal loopholes to lease Barbuda's land in perpetuity. For a moment, New Aragon nearly materializes. Vast pink beaches and a compliant government could have made Vesco monarch of his own sovereign territory, the ultimate offshore sanctuary. But reality intervenes. In early 1982, word of Vesco's presence in Antigua leaks to the international press. Newspapers scream that the world's most notorious fugitive is plotting something insane on a Caribbean island. Under public scrutiny and diplomatic pressure from Washington, Antiguan officials scuttle the New Aragon plan. Vesco vanishes overnight and flies before they can deport him. New Aragon dissolves as a footnote in history, a bizarre might-have-been that came tantalizingly close to reality. The ultimate escape hatch he hoped to build closes forever. Running out of friendly shores, Vesco makes one last strategic move. In 1982, he flies to Nicaragua, now under the socialist Sandinista government. The Sandinistas are staunch enemies of the U.S. The enemy of my enemy logic plays to Vesco's advantage. They welcome him on humanitarian grounds. Vesco likely funnels them cash. In return, Managua grants him a quiet place to regroup. By now, his fortune is dwindling. Life on the run is staggeringly expensive. Yachts, bribes, bodyguards, and clandestine travel all burn money fast. Of the $224 million he stole, much is gone, spent keeping himself one step ahead of handcuffs. But Vesco still has enough for one final play. Through Nicaraguan contacts, he reaches out to the ultimate red phone, Fidel Castro in Cuba. Castro, too, has no love for U.S. extradition requests. Perhaps Vesco offers technical help, investment, or intelligence. Perhaps Castro simply enjoys tweaking Uncle Sam. Either way, in 1983, Cuba opens its door. Vesco slips into Havana under an alias, Tom Adams, and is told to keep a low profile. The world does not immediately know where he vanished. The US suspects he is in Cuba but cannot prove it. Castro's government denies it. In truth, Vesco is in Havana, living quietly in a leafy suburb, right under Castro's nose. He is effectively untouchable. No diplomatic relations, no extradition treaty, and Cold War hostility guarantees Cuba will not cooperate. Robert Vesco, the man who dared steal a fortune and bribe a president, has finally found a port Washington cannot storm. From a certain angle, it looks like checkmate. Vesco has outrun the FBI, SEC, DOJ, multiple presidents, and dozens of international arrest warrants spanning 3 continents. He hopscotched across the Caribbean, always just out of reach, even foiling a covert 1980 kidnap attempt by sending a body double to dupe federal agents while the real Vesco laughed from afar. U.S. officials later marveled at how completely they had been fooled, grabbing a lookalike while their actual target slipped away. He has proven frighteningly skilled at global hide-and-seek. Now in Cuba, under Fidel Castro's personal protection, it seems Robert Vesco might actually claim the last laugh. All he has to do is lay low, enjoy his remaining millions, and avoid embarrassing his hosts. For a while, that is exactly what he does. Through the 1980s, Vesco lives like a phantom millionaire, multiple homes in Havana's best neighborhoods, a private plane, a yacht docked in the harbor, perks granted by a grateful Cuban regime that enjoys needling Washington. He even cultivates friendships with members of Castro's extended family. Locals know him only as Adams, the eccentric American foreigner who pays for everything in cash and asks no questions. But Robert Vesco's greatest enemy was never the FBI or the SEC. It was his own greed. Even in sanctuary, safe at last, he cannot resist the urge for one more hustle, and that decision will destroy him. What kind of con does a man run under the nose of a dictator? And how does the world's greatest escape artist finally run out of exits? 1995. In a sweltering Havana living room, Vesco, alias Tom Adams, paces the tile floor. He is in his 60s now, thick around the middle but still sharp-eyed, still scheming. For years he has been working on a business venture he boasted would generate billions. Ostensibly, it is a pharmaceutical project, a wonder drug codenamed TX that promises to cure cancer and AIDS. In reality, TX is classic Vesco, a scam targeting foreign investors with miraculous claims. He has partnered with a state-run Cuban biotech firm, convincing even members of Castro's inner circle to believe in TX's potential. Money has changed hands, hype has built, but results non-existent. Vesco is playing the most dangerous game of his life, running a con under Fidel Castro's nose. By spring 1995, whispers of fraud reach Cuban authorities. Castro learns that his honored guest might be fleecing gullible partners and tarnishing Cuba's scientific reputation. That is one embarrassment he will not tolerate. On May 31st, 1995, the reckoning arrives, taking us back to that fateful knock on Vesco's door in the Atabay suburb. Ministry of Interior officers flood his home and place him under arrest, charging him with economic crimes against the Cuban state. The long arm of justice that finally grabs Vesco is not American but Cuban. The island that once gave him refuge becomes his prison. The trial is swift and mostly secret. Cuban courts convict Robert Vesco of fraud and sentence him to 13 years. The mighty moneyman who spent decades scheming to avoid bars finally wears prison garb. Ironically, it is not Alcatraz or Leavenworth that entombs him. It is a Cuban cell block on charges brought by his one-time protectors. Castro pointedly refuses U.S. extradition requests. Vesco will serve his time in Cuba on Cuba's terms. The fugitive financier, who manipulated world powers, is reduced to an inmate number in a Havana jail. His health deteriorates behind bars. Decades of stress and indulgence catch up. In 2005, a frail Vesco is quietly released, reportedly with terminal lung cancer. He slips from public view. On November 23, 2007, at age 71, Robert Vesco dies in Cuba. buried, according to reports, in an unmarked grave outside Havana. The man who craved the spotlight and flaunted his impunity ends his days in obscurity and silence. It is a Shakespearean final act. Vesco was not brought down by an FBI raid or a Hollywood-style extradition. He was brought down because he could not stop playing the game. Even in Sanctuary, he tried one con too many, and it cost him everything. Robert Vesco, who bought a president, bought a country, and dreamed of forging a nation, could not buy his way out of Fidel Castro's jail. The system he gamed for so long finally said no more. And if Vesco's story proves anything, it is that even the greatest escape artist eventually runs out of doors. For another tale of a fugitive who believed he could outrun the world, check out our video on Victor Bout, where a different kind of criminal discovered the same brutal truth.